Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be doing a tier list update to the Mega Rising format. I think since the last time I did this, there have been some big changes. We have completely new archetypes, new ways to play decks that have brought them from being some of the worst in the format to some of the best in the format. So I'm very excited to give my thoughts on all of these decks. As always, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, try and hit 20k subs. Would really appreciate it. Support's been amazing. I mean, I can't ask you for much more except get me to 20k. All right. Serious now. So let's explain the tier list, right? You got to know what all of the tiers are. S tier, obviously, it's going to be the best in the format. A tier are going to be the meta decks that don't have like many weaknesses, don't take a bunch of bad matchups, or just overall, if you pick one of these decks, either for a tournament or when ranked comes out, at the moment are going to be a fantastic pick. There's not much that gets in the way of them. B tier are going to be the decks that just slightly do not make it into A tier. They might have one more small weakness. Maybe they're not as consistent. They take a couple worse matchups than some of the A tier decks do. The off meta / counter are going to be the decks that really kind of have like one game plan or a couple decks that they really want to play against. But if they see some of these top A tier, S tier decks across from them, it's just an instant loss. They don't have a way to deal with them. They are really just meant to be a meta call, right? If you're going to enter a tournament and you think, oh man, this meta is going to entirely be Suicune. It's all going to be Suicune. I might play Decidueye. Little spoilers for the, for the future, but that's what I'm basing that tier off of. The felled off / ratio, these are just going to be quick decks we talk about. These are the decks that like were around at the start of the format, but now that decks have been developed and we have an actual meta game, creating itself, they don't have a role in it. You're not seeing them played. I'm not saying that if they're in the felled off plus ratio, they can't like sneak their way back in, because they were fine enough decks. Whether running hot or good matchups go your way, they still can do something, but for the most part, you're never going to see these decks around. They're not really something to consider when you're picking a deck to play. And then the better variants exist. It's just going to be the decks that, listen, there is going to be one version that I truly think is the best. And I'm not going to sit here and split hairs with you guys over which one, like maybe Mega Altaria and Didi is the second slot in A tier, but Altaria Chingling is the fourth spot in A tier. There's just no reason for it. So I'm just going to put any deck that I think is a slightly worse version of essentially the same archetype in the better variants tier. We're not really going to go in any particular order, but I am going to start off with the felled off tier, because I'm not going to throw there's no reason to throw deck list up for these. They're just, these are decks that you really shouldn't even be thinking about. Number one, I'm going to put Mega Gyarados in here. Dude, every deck, it seems, has a 30 snipe to the bench. That's enough to knock out a Magikarp. Mega Gyarados just cannot get online. It does not have a good supplemental attacker or a 30 ping of its own. It takes 4 energy to get set up. So by the time your only threat can attack, you're putting a Mega in the active spot. That's not one-shotting other Megas. So Mega Gyarados comes active, knocks out whatever's in the active spot. Woohoo! And then their Mega comes up and 2 shots to Gyarados, and that's the game. So Mega Gyarados has just proved to be pretty much nothing, and I don't see anyone messing around with him. I've tried. I don't know how you make that deck work. I'm also going to throw Mega Pinsir. I have seen some Leafeon Mega Pinsers be able to go on runs. But to be honest, since the start of the meta, when this set first came out, there's so much less Mega Pinsir. No one is really experimenting with it anymore. Everyone kind of realizes it is a really high roll deck. You're not able to use all the consistency cards that these other decks are, because you're kind of forced to play double will in the list. And when you're doing that, it isn't consistent, man. It's a high roll deck. So we saw Mega Pinsir Oricorio at the start of the meta, but it's not working out anymore. So Mega Pinsir, you don't see him around. So Volley Oricorio, also another deck, was good in the start of the meta for, I think, good reason. It's a really consistent deck. It had Oricorio, so it could block EXs from attacking. So Volley did a bunch of damage. But as the meta has started to figure out, you'll see Oricorio has gotten much weaker than what it once was. Some of the best decks are opting to leave the Oricorios behind in favor of some other Pokemon, and this takes a hit because of it. Same thing with Luxray Oricorio. Luxray is just not as good of an attacker as... It's just not the best way to play an Oricorio-based Lightning deck. And because of that, Luxray has fallen off. And you'll see, like, I mean, I have Magnezone right here. It's no secret. Magnezone is a very good deck right now. Magnezone has essentially replaced Oricorio Luxray. So you won't see this guy anywhere around. You'll see Magnezone Oricorio in its place a lot more. And I believe that is about it for the felled off tier. Some of these other decks you will see around that I talk about, but just still might not be the best if they're in your head right now. Next up, we're going to talk about Hitmonchan. Real quick, I got to shout out Glitch X City for the music today, okay? I'm such on a Glitch X City kick. Shout out anyone who was around PokeTubing circa 2013 through 2015. Shady Penguin was my guy back then. So let me know. I know I've done it before on a previous video, but let me know if you were around in that area. Who was your main watch for that time period? I miss those days, man. Things were so much simpler when in the PokeTubing days. I guess I'm a PokeTuber, right? Technically. All right, Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan is very clearly an off-meta / counter pick. Hitmonchan has one mode, go fast. Try to knock out things. It really loves to see maybe like an Altaria deck that gets off to a bit of a slow start, and Hitmonchan can get a couple quick prizes. It really wants to go second, doesn't love going first. You got the Ampharos, which is sort of, it's not the trickiest thing in the world to set up, but you really are hoping that your opponent is not able to establish themselves. Like even Altaria, I've played some Hitmonchan, I've played some Altaria. I can tell you, if Altaria sets up and Altaria, you lose the game. Because Altaria comes in, knocks out Hitmonchan. If you have a Rocky helmet on it, knocks out Ampharos, or knocks out the Aerodactyl in this particular list. This was the best performing list over the weekend for Hitmonchan. It's like, I don't think it's a good deck. I think it's a very fun deck, but I can't put it anywhere besides off meta / counter, because again, it has like one game plan, which is to end the game very, very quickly. And if it can't do that, it just loses. And it has some really glaring matchup problems with some of these top decks. Next up, we've got Victreebel, and this is another, for that exact same reason, off meta / counter. It's got one thing it wants to do. This deck right here says, I need my opponent to be playing some sort of evolution heavy deck, or a lot of baby Pokemon, and if that's the case, I can win. I played against this deck in tournament with Blaziken, and as soon as I set up Combuskin, the game was over. As soon as I evolved a Torchic into a Combuskin, there was nothing my opponent could do. It is a very one-trick pony type of deck. You want to set up that Victreebel and hope that its Fragrance Trap is enough to bring up all of the little guys that are trying to evolve into the active spot, knock them out, use Pokemon Flute, and get ahead. I do think it's better than Hitmonchan. I will say that. This guy has been kind of popping up every now and then. He'll go on a deep run, and I think, dude, this is just like an insane matchup roulette deck. If you just consistently hit the decks that you want to see, whether that be maybe like Mega Altaria, if they are being a little bit too, not quite realizing what they're playing against and throwing down a bunch of baby Pokemon, Victreebel has an opportunity to feast on them. Maybe not even. I mean, you could like ping the Bellsprouts with Jirachis. You could just set up double Mega Altaria, and then it's really hard for them. There are a lot of things you can do to make it difficult, but it is slightly scary. If a Victreebel is online and you're not able to one-shot it, it definitely can get 2 points off of you for sure. Now, where your third point comes from is a little bit trickier, but it can in the early game, if you get the Victreebel set up fast, it can be very, very scary to deal with. But if you just manage your bench well and play cards correctly, not overextend and put cards down that you don't need, then you should have a fine time against Victreebel. It's just a really matchup roulette heavy deck. I don't think it's any higher than B tier, but again, another very fun off meta pick. Decidueye is going to be our next off meta deck. I still think it's better than Hitmonchan. Honestly, it might be better than Victreebel as well. The big problem is that the big chicken is back in the meta. Mr. Blaziken doing very well. Not great for Decidueye. Also, Altaria is not great either. In my experience, if they set up an Altaria quickly, I mean, first they're using Chinglings on you, so you're not going to be able to play item cards usually in the beginning of the game. And then you have a giant Altaria, which is doing 130 damage very, very quickly, taking out whatever's in the active spot after you're already item locked. It's just very tough. Like, that's two bad matchups right there for you. It can also have a tricky time against any decks that play heavy red card counts, like if they play a red card and a Mars, or even just one red card. An early red card is enough to really cripple this deck. Also, your opponent playing their hand down, making sure that you are not getting a lot of value off a copycat. Another big problem for the deck. There are just some issues, and now I think it was a very good pick a few weeks ago. It was like, there was just this one moment where Decidueye was very, very strong. It had a pretty open meta for it. Blaziken wasn't really a thing. You could catch players by surprise just by bringing it. You know, they weren't expecting Decidueye. Might not be playing against it as well as they should be, but now everyone knows what Decidueye does. Everyone's caught on. They know how to counterplay it. A lot more decks are running Chingling, which makes things harder. And the Blaziken is back. So I think it's, right now, I think it's going to stay in the off meta. And if you look at the tournament data for it, its win rate has absolutely plummeted from where we were at with Decidueye when the deck first came around. So sad to say, but definitely an off meta / counter pick. I'll also throw Mr. Goodra into the off meta / counter. I don't even know if I should still be talking about this deck. It might just be a felled off. There are some decks that it can 100% wall out between all of its healing, but a big problem for it is that a lot more decks are playing 30 snipes now. So, like, your opponent can kind of just ignore the Goodra. You'll want to have double Indeedee in play, most likely, or you'll kind of be forced to at some point in the game. And when you do that, like, I'm thinking if I'm playing against Goodra as Altaria, I'm waiting for those Indeedees to hit the bench, and I'm going Jirachi 30. Jirachi 30. Hit both of them for 30. Cyrus game. There we go. That's how I win. And that's like a hard thing to deal with. There's also just, there are decks that can deal with the Goodra. This version only plays one heavy helmet because there's not like a lot of space in the list. So this version plays one heavy helmet. Well, Blaziken is going to do 140 to Goodra. With a Rocky helmet, Goodra cannot attack into the Blaziken without getting knocked out unless it has that one of heavy helmet. There's no like supplemental draw. It's just 2 research and a copycat. That can spell problems for you. If your one Goodra gets knocked out, the game is over. That is your only game plan, is Goodra is going to live forever. If your opponent is able to deal with that Goodra or just completely go around the Goodra, you're going to lose the game. There are, you know, other decks can also just kind of sustain and heal. Like Suicune can bounce around all of the water attackers that they have. Make it very difficult for the Goodra to ever get the win because you're just not knocking out what's in the active spot. They're just running away with them. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with Goodra. It is like, if it almost feels like Exodia, man. If you get Goodra set up, double Indeedee, and your opponent is not playing a way to deal with the Goodra, you can just win the game by that. And that is very, very fun, but I can't give it much more respect than just off meta. Next, I have Mega Ampharos, and to be honest, I'm not really sure where to put this. I don't think Mega Ampharos does what any of these counter decks really do, where it's like, oh, if Mega Ampharos sees, you know, a couple of these meta decks, it's going crazy, you know, it like can't wait to get those matchups. It's like, I don't think it does anything truly special. I think it is one of the weaker megas. It's pretty hard to set up. You need a lot of energies. The Oricorios kind of carry you. It's like, I don't know, it's like a bad high roll deck. Like, I really don't know where to put this. I would personally, never play this to a tournament. I do see it pop up every now and then, which again, I think you would just have to put it in off meta / counter, because it really wants to see decks that can't deal with the Oricorio that well, because the Oricorio is going to buy it all the time in the world, let you set up this Mega Ampharos, and then Mega Ampharos can come in and try to finish the game for you. But other than that, man, like, I can't put it in B tier. There's no way. I don't really think it's that specialized in countering anything that's going on in the meta right now. I think it might even just be like felled off plus ratio tier, man. Like, I don't see a reason to play Mega Ampharos in this meta at all. I think there are much better lightning decks. So it's like a very bottom of off meta, I guess. For our last off meta / counter, I'm gonna throw up Oricorio Greninja. I just think there's a better combo for Mr. Oricorio here. I think that this is sort of, I mean, this is a relic of the time. Again, this is, you know, really, I think it might more be like, I don't know. It is just like, it is powerful on its own, right? You have Greninja, so you get to kind of move around Pokemon however you want with the Greninja plus Cyrus. You have the Oricorio. It might just be better off in Felled Off plus Ratio. This is not a deck I would ever think about or ever consider. And I think that the Oricorio's got a lot weaker just as the meta has gone on. But it is like, it does do what the counter wants it to, right? It is sort of, hey, I hope that I hit a deck that can't deal with Oricorio all that well. And if I do, awesome, right? I'm chilling. If the deck can deal with Oricorio, or it can snipe around the Oricorios and take out my only attacking threat, which is the Greninja, the guy who's going to be doing most of the damage, then you're in a pretty bad spot. So he might even just be, honestly, I'm going to make an executive decision. This guy's actually felled off. I have seen him around a little bit in the meta currently, but I don't see why. It's a 1-point Pokemon, but you are going to get blasted out of the water by some of these other 1-point decks, or not 1-point decks, but have like a really strong 1-point attacker. They're going to melt you. The other decks that can snipe around the Oricorio or just outright knock out the Oricorio quickly are going to melt you. I don't know why you would play this deck. I think if you hit the God draws and the God matchup roulette, then it can do fine, but that's a really hard to ask for in this meta. Otherwise, you are not going to be having a fun time with Greninja Oricorio. So yeah, I'm going to throw him in the felled off tier as well. Let's talk Guzzlord next. I think this guy's going to be B tier. So B tier, again, like I said, this is sort of decks that just aren't quite consistent enough. Like, I don't really have any problems with them necessarily, but either just the power ceiling is just slightly below these A tier decks, or maybe it is asking to draw cards better than your opponent is. And that's kind of what Guzzlord, this version, has always done. You're playing a lot of basics, right? You're playing Poiples, Nihilegos, Guzzlords, and Celesteelos. All very important. Ideally, you want to get Poiples and Nihilegos at the start of the game. There's nothing saying that instead of Poiples and Nihilegos, you get Guzzlords and Celesteelos. If you are able to get your Naganadel set up early with a Nihilego on the bench, and you are now doing 60 damage for 1 with a 1-point Pokemon, the poison ticking in between turns, being 80 damage if they don't retreat, the poison barbs, like the poison damage is scary. This deck can do very, very well. This was always my problem with Guzzlord Poison, was that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of basics that you have going on, and there isn't like you can't get the Guzzlord early and be like, oh, I got Guzzlord, so I guess the game plan is going to be early Guzzlord. Guzzlord takes 4 energy to do 120, man. And the grind core is not like a winning strategy. You can't just throw Guzzlord up and go grind core and hope that that's going to win you the game. Not going to work. So you really need your basics to be drawn in a specific order. And if you do draw those basics in a specific order, the deck is super difficult to beat. You have early aggression from Naganadel or Nihilego. Both of them can fulfill that role. Then, to close the game, after making your opponent go through 1 or 2 of them, you have 170 HP Guzzlord, which is essentially a Mega Pokemon, right? With a very strong attack, both Grindcore and Tyrannical Hole. Grindcore can steal you the game in the late game if you just don't quite have what you need and you need like 1 more turn. Tyrannical Hole is just 120, 120, 120. So it is a very, very scary deck and can do amazing. I mean, it's gotten some very high placements at the Pocket Match Tournament for the last 2 weeks. It does have the capability, and maybe it will only ever, maybe the truth is it'll only ever perform at these big tournaments where there's enough people playing them that one person just does go on the God Run. But I think with all those things considered, like, I don't think that it sees any specific deck and is really, really upset about it. I think this deck has the capability to be anything if it draws correctly. That is a tough thing to ask, but for that, I'm going to put it in B tier. For those exact same reasons, I am going to put Jolteon in this tier. Now, there are 2 different variants you can play. I'm going to put Jolteon, I think, above Guzzlord. I think consistently, Jolteon has done better than Guzzlord. Guzzlord has hit higher peaks, I believe, and overall, I think has a higher power level. But Jolteon, Oh, sorry. What I was going to say is that there are like two different Jolteon variants. There's Jolteon with a Pikachu, or there's Jolteon with scratch the Pikachu, go double Oricorio, double Cyrus, and we'll play the game like that. This is also, it's like the same thing as Guzzlord, where you really want to maybe go first, start Eevee, evolve it into Jolteon immediately, start with a Zeraora on the bench, or even going second would be fine because your opponent's not going to attach an energy on their very first turn. Start the Eevee, Jolteon evolution, get the Zeraora on the bench so you can just elemental switch that energy up into Jolteon, and ideally have a Cyrus in your hand. So let's say you're playing against Mega Altaria and your opponent wants to build up that Mega Altaria. If they attach that Swablu, take 20 damage, and you go Cyrus, shut it down, I mean, that's going to get you a lot of time, man. That is, your opponent needs to go find another Swablu. Your opponent needs to attach 2 energy onto it, which by then could just be the end of the game because Jolteon's swinging for 80 over and over, and there's not much against Mega Altaria that can get through it. Suicune, you're going to be doing massive damage early. They're going to be taking damage from their attachments. You should be able to two-shot a Suicune, no problem. The deck like has the potential, but it is all based on, can you start Eevee or can you get into that Eevee? And can you start attacking from your second turn and have evolved into a Jolteon to get like the ping damage in? So you are asking for like the same thing to happen every single game to be really, really powerful. But if it does happen, it's insanely scary for any deck to deal with, right? It is a big, big problem. And especially with the Cyrus combos, man. Being able to just Cyrus up whatever Pokemon's being built up on the bench, bring it to the active spot, smack it in the face for 80. It's tough to deal with. But it doesn't happen, like, too consistently that it's this overwhelming broken deck. It's a tough thing to ask for, man. You need to start the proper basic, and you need to find a stage 1. It's not that easy to find a stage 1 in this game really early on. Sometimes you can go the whole game without ever finding your stage 1. Man, don't I know it. Even with May and Copycat, it can happen. You can just completely whiff on those cards. Those Jolteons could be stuck together at the bottom because you were eating too much glue and some of it spilled on your Jolteons. Yeah, man, it is scary when it gets up and going, but more often than not, or not more often than not, but it just doesn't do it consistently enough to be an A tier. The more I talk about it, I think the B tier really is like insane ceiling on how well these decks can do, just totally based on can you draw cards well enough. And that is also Arceus Crobat. Arceus Crobat is the same sort of thing. Arceus has always had this problem where if your opponent plays any sort of bench sniping and Cyruses, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you everything. Arceus is going to get pinged, and then you are going to get Cyrused, and then your one attacker is gone. Arceus isn't like that fast to set up, right? This deck does play the Pichu to try to remedy that, get the Arceus up and going just a little bit quicker, but it's not the fastest thing in the world to set up, man. It needs 3 energy attachments. It's a basic. Your opponent can very easily just start Jirachi, start Heatmore, 30 on that Arceus, Cyrus, give me that, no more attacking threat. But on the flip side, the potential of this deck, whether it be Mega Absol or Arceus that's attacking, if you have double Crobat set up, dude, that's 60 extra damage a turn. That means that Arceus is now swinging for 190. Mega Absol is swinging for 140, two-shotting anything. It's the potential here is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The amount of damage that you can do, even just getting the Crobat set up fast, or relatively as fast as you can get it set up under Chingling locked, because that's mainly the baby you'll be looking at. You can start using Crobat to knock out the babies for no attack. Just use Crobat's ability, and then the Chingling is gone. It is fairly scary if it gets up and going, but you're asking for Arceus to be left alone for long enough that you can do that. You're asking to get your Crobat set up. You're requiring a bit more than these A-tier decks, and just like the other ones, it's just, you're asking for a bit more, man. You're asking for the cards to go better than your opponent. And so for that, it's going B tier. Now let's talk about Mega Absol. I believe that we are about done with B tier decks, but I might change my mind. I might switch some things up towards the end of the video when I do a final look through. But we're going to talk about Absol and Darkrai. And I think that this is definitely an A tier, but you have to be playing the right version. You have to be playing the right version. This one I have up on screen right here. You've heard me talk about, as the video has gone on, that Oricorio has sort of fallen out of favor. A lot of bench sniping, a lot of ways around the Oricorios. It's just not this, like, early meta nuisance that it was as, you know, as bad. And so, the Mega Absol variants that have been doing really, really good are this new double Chingling, one Tyrogue version. Well, I guess not new. It was kind of around, but it wasn't the preferred way to play it. Now it is the preferred way to play it. This is going to allow you to item lock your opponent with the Chinglings early. You are just much more annoying with this version to the current meta than the Oricorio version is. That's kind of what Mega Absol sought to do, was be Mega Absol, this already annoying card, and pair it with something very annoying for the early game. Give me time to set up my Mega Absols, and things will work out for me. Now it is just Chingling is a much better nuisance than Oricorio, so this version is rising to the top. Because of that, if you go and look at the stats of Mega Absol over the weekend, you might be a little bit fooled because the Mega Absol variants are not differentiated in the actual data from the Oricorio versions to the Chingling versions. The Chingling versions are the ones doing very well. The Oricorio versions are the one pulling down Mega Absol's stats, making it look like it's not as good of a deck as it is. It's still insanely powerful. This is just pure consistency, no evolutions required, while you're item locking your opponent. Endgame, you get to throw up Mega Absol, hope that you discard that Cyrus from your opponent's hand, then you can pivot between two Mega Absols and use that to win. It is still very strong. The deck does have its own problem, like it has its own bad matchups where it doesn't have a great time into Altaria things still, because the Jirachi can kind of just ping the Absol, and if it can get 2 pings off on the Absol, that kind of seals up the game, because they will be able to Cyrus up that Absol and knock it out, even through a Pokemon Center Lady, because you would have done 60 to the Absol. It has a bit of that problem with Blaziken as well, but it looks to remedy that through the Chinglings. Listen, man, I've played the matchup. It's not, like, perfect. This deck is very, very annoying. It will stop you from evolving into your stage 2s, your Blazikens, and they will reset your hand, and maybe, like, you just go against any stage 2 deck. You can just go Chingling, Chingling, Chingling. All right, Mega Absol, he's ready to go. Red card my opponent, switch in the Absol, attack. Cool. You didn't get to use any Pokeballs this game. You didn't get to use any rare candies. Hope that 3 cards gave you something to survive this turn. If it didn't, I win. And that's kind of what this deck looks to do. And then even into the late game, man, like I said, the Mega Absol can discard the Cyruses, the Lilies, the whatever your opponent needs to help win the game. It can get rid of those, leaving you with no way to take your last points that you need in order to win. So Mega Absol is still very, very strong. It's just people are playing the wrong version for the current meta. And in doing that, it's making it look like it's a worse deck, but I still think it's very, very powerful, very consistent, a true meta threat. Let's talk about Absol Hydreigon. So this deck, I mean, I rated it very poorly in my last meta, whatever, my last tier list, and that's because I was looking at the wrong variant. I was looking at the variant where, like, it just so happens that all of the bad deck lists ended up, so all of the stats for it looked awful. But also at the same time, I don't think to me, the list was not figured out in a way that I was happy with. It's kind of when we started to realize that, oh my gosh, wait, Copycat is kind of broken for these stage 2 decks. It allows you to actually consistently get these guys set up, that I really started to respect it. And this is a very cool list. This is the week of 30 snipes to the bench, man. This is what we're doing now. We are using these 30 snipes to punish our opponents putting their megas in too early, and this deck takes, like, full advantage of that. You are able to use the Absol to snipe 30 at your opponent's megas or whatever Pokemon they're trying to evolve into the megas, because that is their main attacker. While you're doing that, you can ignore that Mega Absol you have, leave him in the back, say, yo, this is my late game guy, I don't gotta worry about him. I'm gonna start sniping with this Absol and set up a Hydreigon instead, a 1-point Pokemon that when my opponent is either sniping it with a Jirachi or a Hitmonchan, they're not gonna win the game just by Cyrusing that up and knocking it out. They're gonna have to go through that Hydreigon and then a Mega Absol as well to finish the game, or a second Hydreigon, you know, whatever. This variant seems so cool, and I cannot wait to start playing it. I have not played it yet, but just looking at it, I'm already in love with it. There are other ways to play the Mega or the Hydreigon list, cut the Absols, add a second Chingling, go double, what is it? Double X speed, take out a Cyrus, go double X speed, and now you're just trying to get into your Hydreigons really, really fast and use that to win. There are a lot of different ways to play this deck. There's also no X speeds, no Absols, just Chinglings, and some more variety on your support accounts, like a Pokemon Center Lady or a Giovanni / Red, whatever. A lot of ways to play this deck. This is just the version I think is the coolest at the moment because 30 to the bench is insane right now. It's absolutely insane. It's what like every single meta deck up here is playing besides the Mega Absol Darkrai variant. And I think that this Hydreigon list is one of the scariest ones. I didn't put any respect on it towards the beginning of the meta because I knew going into it, setting up a stage 2 is just high roll. It's just high roll. But once I truly realized the power of Copycat and how much it actually makes it possible to set up these stage 2s early on, I think it is amazing. It really is a fantastic deck. Now, it will have Chingling problems, right? You're not going to be able to knock out or to rare candy into your Hydreigons if a Chingling is attacking, but you're going to hope that the Absol is kind of able to put enough pressure on your opponent that Chingling needs to go. It needs to go to the bench. There's also another cool thing is against Chinglings, man, these Rocky Helmets are very, very important. A Chingling cannot attack twice into a Pokemon with a Rocky Helmet on it, whether or not you're hitting it, right? It's just going to take 20, and that's going to take 20 again and knock itself out. That sucks, man. If you're using Chingling, you do not want that guy to commit seppuku in the active spot. It is going to put you... It's going to put you in a really, really poor spot if that happens. You really don't. So if you stick an Absol in the active spot with a Rocky Helmet, your opponent's like, dude, I might have like one Chingling turn. I don't know. Maybe if I get a second Chingling, I can do it twice, but yeah, I do not want to be knocking out my own Chinglings. Altaria can't get around that with the Indeedee, of course. Heal 20 from that Rocky Helmet damage, but like other Chingling decks kind of can't. They don't have any heals for it. So yeah, this deck is just super, super sick, man. I'm a really big fan of it. I think it's very, very strong. Yeah, just a fantastic deck overall. Time to talk Mega Blaziken. And can I be honest, dude? I hate this guy. I hate this guy. We're talking about the Hemo variant. Don't play Entei. It's horrible. Dude, I hate this guy. So the Entei version just doesn't work. It's too much. You have to attach to the Enteis to get it out of the active spot. It's a 2-point Pokemon, so your opponent can even just like knock out Entei and then knock out a Torchic. They win the game. They can knock out double Entei and win the game instead of Mega Blaziken. Bro, this deck, it is like, if I set up Mega Blaziken against most of the meta, there's a very good chance I just win. Straight up. But you got to set up the Mega Blaziken. You got to set up the Mega Blaziken. And if you want to see what that looks like, go watch the VOD from last week's Pocket Mad stream. Pocket Mad's, hey, shout out him. He's like, hey, you want to go on stream first? I'm like, I already know what this means, bro. I already know what this means. This is a brick incoming. I won my first game, and we won't say how it, and I won't try to spoil, but my gameplay looked a lot like this. It looked a lot like this. Pretend it's a Grimace brick and not a Grimace egg. Yeah, it just wasn't a great time. So, and that was how I felt like most of the day. Now, granted, I was playing a 1 copycat build, not a 1 copycat May build. That will help, absolutely. But I get into a whole nother string of problems where if I'm cutting something for the May or the second copycat, I'm losing like a really good card. I want double Cyrus in the list. I want double Rocky Helmet in the list. I want a Lily in the list. One of those has to go for that second consistency card. And getting rid of any of them feels terrible. Terrible, bro. So it's like I played the greedy version of the deck, was punished for it by not being consistent. But like the games that I was winning, I needed double Rocky Helmet. I needed double Cyrus. Maybe I didn't need the Lily. Maybe. No, I mean, the Lily did win me a set. I would not have won a set without the Lily. So, like, every card pulled its weight. And to get rid of those just so I can actually play the game, I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. I really don't know about you, Blaziken. It's so tough. When your main attacker is a stage 2, you have no backups. It is that stage 2 has to get set up. Or I literally don't even have a path to victory. It feels really, really bad. So, dude, but if you can set up the Mega Blaziken consistently, you will just win the games. You will win the games. You're 210 damage. You're doing 140 every turn. Impossible to deal with if you get set up and going very quickly. Even worse if you're able to heat more your opponent's, main attacker and then Cyrus it with Mega Blaziken. Very, very hard to deal with. But I feel like it just doesn't do it enough for me to put it higher than any of these other decks in A tier. So that's where I'm going to leave Blaziken. It comes from personal experience. I will never play a deck like this to a tournament ever again. I'm going to stick to my decks where I feel like I have some actual skill expression, and I'm not just hoping I get the chicken. Like, that's where most of the skill expression from this deck comes from, is like, how can I survive the longest amount of time possible to get this dang chicken set up? What can I do to make sure I don't lose for enough turns that the Mega Blaziken can come out? And dude, it does not feel fun. So yeah, I'm gonna stick Mega Blaziken bottom of A tier. I feel like I've heard some allegations of Suicune falling off, but I'm gonna be honest, I still think it's like an amazing deck. I don't think it did like quite as well this weekend as it usually does, but I still think it's amazing. I still think it's one of the best decks in the format. Very, very consistent with the Suicune. Like, obviously, Suicune drawing cards. The Greninja EX is incredibly annoying to deal with. The regular Greninja enabling Cyrus plays. Dude, this deck's it's just really, really tough. It's really, really, really tough, man. It's like the most consistent deck that is playing evolutions right now because you're just drawing so many cards with Suicunes. It does take some bad matchups, for sure. It's not gonna love seeing, like, on average, Blaziken can be kind of hard for it. I don't think it's like the worst in the world though. But like overall, it might be one of the more, we just kind of take even-ish matchups to most everything besides like Mega Absol. Mega Absol is pretty favored for this deck. But yeah, the deck is just like super, super strong still. Very, very consistent. I don't have much more to say about that. I still think it's a very good pick for any tournament or ranked when that comes out. Next up is going to be Magnezone Oricorio, and I'm really split on whether to put this above Hydreigon or below it because this deck kind of has, they sort of are the same into the meta. They're these really strong 1-point decks. Magnezone is going to allegedly take a worse matchup to Blaziken, and Absol is going to take, or Hydreigon is going to take a worse matchup into like the Altaria stuff. So it's really just which one you value more. A good plus of this deck is that unlike Hydreigon, it's not going to take as much punishment from Chinglings, or really any punishment from Chinglings, because you're not using Rare Candy to evolve. But with this new Absol variant that plays the 30 snipe to the Absols that can then kind of circumvent the Chinglings by putting pressure on your opponent's benched attackers, like, I don't know, they feel pretty similar to me, and like whether I would play them or not, there's just these really scary 1-point decks that take really good matchups across the board, but don't really want to see, you know, like one of these top decks, or else they will start to you know, like they'll take a bad matchup to them. They don't want to see them, and they are very popular. Like, both of the decks that they don't want to see are really, really popular. I don't know which one to rate over the other. And I will say, I think these top 4 decks are all kind of similar. And I'll spoiler it here. I don't think there's an S tier deck right now. I really don't. I think the meta comes down to, like, there are 6 really, really strong decks right now, and they all kind of like, they all have their bad matchups, they all have certain weaknesses, and I think whether or not you want to play one of them comes down to a couple things. What decks do you expect to see more of? If you expect to see more Altarias, maybe don't play a Hydreigon deck. If you expect to see more Magnezones, don't play a Suicune deck, right? Also, what also matters a lot is your comfortability with the deck that you are playing. Are you confident that you are able to play this deck better than the opponent across from you? And do you think you are capable of playing the deck better in the mirror match? Do you think if you sit across from a Magnezone while you're playing Magnezone that you can come out ahead consistently? That, I think, is what is determining which deck you should play in the meta out of these top tier decks. I don't think there's anyone that is truly better than the others. I would think that the only outlier here, because I like my decks to have skill expression, I think Mega Blaziken is probably the least skill expressive of any of these. And it's a little bit more high rolly. I think that this is just kind of, if I don't want to think for a tournament, I will play Mega Blaziken, and I have a similar power level to all of these, depending on just law of averages. How is my deck setting up? So let's get into the last deck, but that's kind of my thoughts on Magnezone. I think the deck is crazy strong right now, though. Let's get on to our last deck, Mega Altaria Indeedee. And honestly, this is why this tier was created, was so we could put these in here. There are like other variants of Mega Absol, like with no Darkrai and those double Absol pings, or like Poison Mega Absol, Mega Absol with Crobat, and like those are also like just better versions exist. So I wouldn't really think too much about them. Mega Altaria Indeedee. This deck feels to me like if you go second and start Chingling, it is, or even go first, start Chingling, it is the strongest deck in the game. It's so ridiculous. The big problem with Mega Altaria for me is when you go first and like start Swablu, you are immediately too far behind to do anything but use Mega Altaria, right? Because you can, if you only have the one Swablu, you can attach to the Swablu and retreat it. There goes your energy. You are now not really able at any point to go Jirachi, ping a Mega on the bench. If you start Swablu, you kind of got to find the other Swablu, let the Swablu in the active spot get knocked out, which might not be possible if your opponent's playing something that can snipe the bench. It really starts to fall apart if you do not start Chingling. But if you start Chingling, dude, it's the most broken thing in the world. You are just able to do everything in the world. Item block your opponent, ping for 30, set up this massive, easy to access Mega that's going to two-shot any other Mega in the game. It's truly insane. But if you don't get that good start, man, things can go a little bit south. I think it's fantastic for tournament play, though, because you're not going to go first, start Swablu every single game. And even if you do, like, you can still win those games. It just doesn't feel that great. It really doesn't. It feels kind of bad. Yeah, I really love the Mega Altaria deck. And again, just like I was saying, I feel like these top 5 decks, outlier being Blaziken, which is just high roll, man. It's just like, which deck do you think you can play the best? Which deck do you think that you can play the best into the mirror match? Because these are all very widely played decks. You're gonna run into them on ranked, when it comes out, in tournament, whatever. But I think that these 5 decks are what, like, truly, these 6 decks are what truly make up the meta. And it's just personal preference. And that's why I love this meta so much. I don't think anything is more powerful than these top 6 decks. I think these are the guys running the show right now. And it's just good variety, dude. It's good variety. This format has been truly amazing. It has been so much fun to play. I'm really hoping that this mini set doesn't mess it all up by introducing, I don't know, Mega Charizard that does 300 damage and will just blow up any Mega, and then you can play that with Hitmonchan, and just, I don't know, dude. I'm just hoping that there isn't some broken card in this mini set that turns this fun, amazing meta with so many choices into like a Suicune situation, where it's, hey, you're playing Suicune, everything else is trying to beat Suicune, or you're just pretending like Suicune doesn't exist and trying to have fun. Because this meta is really fantastic. I think this is where I'm gonna leave the list. Yeah, I'm happy with my list, honestly. I'm very happy with my list. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you on the next one.